After a historic moon landing, India's space agency has now launched a rocket to study the sun.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
India is not satisfied with just the moon. They want the sun too. And they're not afraid to get close and personal with it. Watch this video to see how they're planning to do it and how they can save us from a potential doomsday scenario. But before we get into the details of their daring mission, let's take a step back and ask ourselves a simple question. What is India doing in space? Nowadays, whenever I look at space news, I'm seeing India. I think it wouldn't be wrong to say that India is on a roll in space. After conquering the moon with Chandrayaan 3, the country is now aiming for the sun with the spacecraft Aditya L1. Yes, you heard that right, the sun. The big ball of fire in the sky. They wanted to see what's going on there and how it affects us. They used a rocket called PSLV C57, which sounds like a fancy shampoo. The rocket flew from a place called Sriharikota, which is in India, obviously. The rocket looked pretty cool, with a white tail behind it. According to those closely monitoring the mission on their screens, everything went well. They said the rocket was, quote, normal, whatever that means. Now let's shift our focus on this satellite now. It's a real beast. It weighs 1,500 kilograms, or 3,300 pounds. And it's bringing along 7 cool gadgets, each with a specific mission to peek at the sun's various layers. These layers have different names and characteristics, depending on their distance from the sun's core. The outermost layer is called the corona, which is not related to the virus or the beer. Below the corona lies the photosphere, which is the visible surface of the sun that we see from Earth. And beneath the photosphere is the chromosphere, which sounds like a fancy car, but is actually a thin and irregular layer of hot gas. But why bother looking at the sun's layers? Well, because they affect our weather and our technology. As you know, the sun is not just a giant ball of fire that gives us light and warmth. It's also a giant ball of fire that can ruin our lives. How? Well, the sun spits out solar wind and solar flares, which are like cosmic spitballs and firecrackers. These can cause geomagnetic storms, which are like cosmic tantrums. And you don't want to mess with one of those. Geomagnetic storms can do all kinds of nasty things to Earth, such as making pretty lights in the sky called auroras, which are nice to look at, but not so nice to live under. They can mess up your compass, your phone, and your brain. Okay, maybe that last one was a little bit of an exaggeration. Frying electrical transformers and power lines, which can cause blackouts and brownouts. That means no lights, no AC, no TV, no fridge, no microwave, no nothing. Jamming radio signals and GPS systems, which can affect aviation, military operations, and emergency services. That means no flights, no missiles, no ambulances, no firefighters, no police. Yeah, in this scenario, you won't need to wait for the next Purge movie. And finally, it might damage satellites and spacecrafts, which can affect telecommunication, weather forecasting, and scientific research. That means no internet, no calls, no texts, no emails, no weather reports, no space exploration. So, you see, solar wind and solar flares are not just harmless fireworks in the sky. They can have serious consequences for our civilization and infrastructure. And they can happen anytime, without much warning. But don't panic yet. These events are not likely to end life on Earth as we know it. They may cause some inconvenience and damage, but nothing that we can't recover from. However, imagine if you had to live for a year without internet or electricity. How would you cope? How would you work, study, play, or socialize? How would you survive? I don't know about you, but I know some people who would rather face a 100-kilometer asteroid hitting Earth than live a year without the internet. They would be bored out of their minds, depressed and isolated. They'd miss their favorite shows, games, memes, and cat videos. They'd feel like they're living in the Dark Ages. So yeah, it is a doomsday scenario for some people. But don't worry, Aditya L1 will help us out. It'll tell us what the sun is up to so we can prepare for any solar tantrums. It'll also help us fill in the gaps in our knowledge of space weather, which is a thing. But how will Aditya L1 get to the sun? Well, it won't go all the way there because that would be too hot and too far. Instead, it will go to a sweet spot called L1, where it can orbit around a point between the sun and the Earth. This means that it will always have a clear view of the sun without any interference from the Earth or the moon. This might sound easy, but trust me, it's nowhere near that, not even close. Literally, because L1 is about 1.5 million kilometers away from Earth. which is only 1% of the distance to the sun. That's like going to the corner store instead of the mall. But hey, it's still closer than anything else that has ever been to the sun, right? Well, no, because NASA's Parker Solar Probe has become the sun's best buddy, getting closer to it than any other thing humans have ever made. The spacecraft will eventually reach a distance of only about 6.2 million kilometers from the sun's surface in 2025, but it's not achieved that yet. The most recent close approach of the Parker Solar Probe was on April 29, 2021, when it was about 10.4 million kilometers from the sun's surface. So, sorry India, you might need to push a little harder, but hey, different missions, different goals. No judging here. But why do we need to get so close to the sun anyway? Well, India has more than 50 satellites in space, and they do a lot of important stuff for us. They help us communicate, predict the weather, and prevent disasters. But they also need protection from the sun's wrath. That's why Aditya L1 is our new best friend. This satellite can monitor the sun's activity, such as solar wind or a solar eruption, a couple days ahead. This will help us move our satellites out of harm's way from the sun and increase their longevity in space. Speaking of the sun, it's a mystery in itself, with its outer layer reaching temperatures of over 1 million degrees, while the inner layer remains only a few thousand degrees. How does that make sense? And how does the sun's radiation affect our planet's atmosphere and climate over time? That's another puzzle. The sun's radiation comes in different wavelengths and intensities, and it can do different things to our atmosphere. It can create ions and ozone that shields us from harmful ultraviolet rays, or it can heat up and light up our world, creating weather patterns and seasons. It can also change over time depending on the sun's activity cycle, and cause changes in our climate system. We don't know for sure how all of this works, but we're about to find out.
India's first solar exploration mission, Aditya L1, has begun collecting scientific data.
The Aditya L1 mission will take amazing pictures of the sun's different layers at the same time and show us how energy moves from one layer to another. This will help us learn more about the sun's secrets and how it influences our solar system. The Aditya L1 mission is not just a space adventure, it's a quest to solve some of the biggest puzzles in solar physics and heliophysics. In the end, maybe we won't learn all that, but still we'll learn a lot, and we'll have fun along the way. In the end, the sun is a big ball of mystery in the sky, and we love mysteries, don't we? So stay with us as we explore the sun and its secrets. And don't worry, we're not going anywhere. We'll be back with more exciting episodes soon. Until then, keep your eyes on the sun. But not literally, that would hurt. A lot. Well, I hope you learned something new or just had fun, and if you did, please show some love by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out and makes me happy. And you want me to be happy, right? Of course you do. You're awesome like that. But seriously, thank you for watching and supporting the channel. By the way, if you want to check out the video about India's moon mission and space program, click here. See you next time.